Our time together is brief. It's almost like a high-speed wine tasting where we kind of tap the reserve collection quickly and hopefully in a way to kind of sparkle your taste buds in a way that helps you maybe seek the full nourishment of the real meal that we'll serve up in the masterclass. So today's a little bit about the what, and the masterclass is more about the real how, rolling up our sleeves and diving in how to achieve radical adaptability. Now, let's just start with that term, okay? And I'm going to do a little bit of a screen share here in just a moment. But radical adaptability, I mean, it's kind of an oxymoron almost, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of like frenetic mindfulness. It's words that almost don't belong together. And so you put that together and go, what are we really talking about here? Well, let me share with you just a couple quotes that you will see, and I think that you will enjoy, that relate to this directly. So first of all, let's start with this one right here. Chinese proverb says, a wise man adapts himself to circumstances as water shapes itself to the vessel that contains it. Well, that sounds so Zen-like and so beautiful, but let me ask you this. How do you feel about going with the flow? If we were to go with the flow as it's currently going, do you like where it leads? Are you happy with the vessel that is shaping us? Or is there something more? Another way to think about this, and I think this so applies to the hospitality world and especially travel. I love this quote from Tom Holt. It says, human beings can get used to virtually anything given plenty of time and no choice in the matter whatsoever. The moment that really struck me with travel, and I'm old enough to say this, I remember the moments where you got on an airplane and people almost fought for that window seat because you could see the miracle of flying in the sky, in the clouds, and to see the landscape as you went over it, and to get to know the land as you traversed it, right? Well, now what do you see on an airplane? Everybody shuts the shades, and they get in on their devices, and they get engaged, and they shut the world off. Well, the moment that really hit me and almost brought me to tears was I was on this flight. It was across America after being overseas. I was on my last flight home, and the pilot gets on, and he, in an almost emotional voice, says, ladies and gentlemen, outside the left side of the plane, we are witnessing one of the most beautiful sunrises over the Grand Canyon that I've ever seen in my entire life. I encourage you to enjoy it with me. I was like, wow. So I look, and all, of course, the window shades are shut. I look at the whole plane. No one moves. Finally, I had to say something because I'm on the aisle seat, and I touched the guy next to me. I said, excuse me, because he's got his headphones in. Would you mind popping the window shade so we can see this view? And he's like, okay. And he lifts it like, is this going to take long? He doesn't even look outside. And I thought, we can adapt to pretty much anything given enough time and no choice in the matter whatsoever. And isn't that what we've seen so much of? But we are capable of so much more. And what better time to talk about radical adaptability than now? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple polling questions. I'm going to ask you to engage in these swiftly because our time is brief. Let's talk about peak or radical adaptability. Darwin said, adapt or die. This is the way nature works. But isn't there a higher level? What about radical adaptability? Historically, those are called mutations. And mutations create evolutionary leaps that allow a species to survive and thrive in ways they otherwise could not. What better time for us to have an evolutionary leap in hospitality and in our world than right now? In our model, let's talk about basic raw adaptability, what we call reactive adaptability. This is compliant, where we willingly or maybe even reluctantly go along with what is necessary and required. How much of that do we see in the world every day in every headline right now with COVID? Then we have so many consultants and leaders are engaged with your companies all over the world, which are sort of the active or strategic level, saying, okay, now we need to make some some real thought, real decisions about when, what, and how we're going to deal with this. So the majority of our effort and energy has been going into reacting to, complying with. Look at all the regulations, all the protocols around cleanliness, around distancing, around masks. I mean, we're being pummeled with it all day, every day, right? That's what we've seen in the industry so far. How well does that speak to our higher possibilities? So what we find, again, across food and beverage, across travel, across hospitality, is that for the first several months of COVID, what we saw is that people were just trying to figure it out. Like, what is it you need me to do? A lot of people have been waiting, as we know, with airlines, with revenues down 70%, and of course, with hospitality in general, with revenues down, conference revenues plummeting, all of that. We know that people have been basically in a wait and see mode and a very reactive mode. What our research shows is this: there is a higher level, and wow, is there an opportunity right now? We call this the proactive level, where now things are generative. We're actually seeking and creating the new reality, okay? Then it gets to a level we call radical adaptability, where we have locked into this flywheel of responding, embracing, and optimizing masterfully, decisively, and relentlessly this level of possibility out there. We can teach you how to do this, but today we're talking a little bit about what it's all about. Take this headline that just came out last week: the newest hotel amenity, virus scrubbed air, right? There it is. Well, let's talk about air for just a moment, okay? If we were to look at it in the context of our model here, reactive is, well, okay, I guess, we're supposed to control the temperature of our hotels to be more environmentally conscious. So everybody puts in thermostats that can only go to 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 19 degrees centigrade. And now we lock down the customer on their preference, and then we're not allowed to adjust our own comfort level in the room anymore. You tell us what to do, right? Then we say, okay, well, with COVID and all this stuff, there's some things we're supposed to do, like improve airflow maybe. So we say, which properties, when and where, and how are we going to roll out this new protocol? We're doing that actively. But proactively means doing something that makes it better. And you can write that down. That's the key difference. At this level, we're doing something that doesn't keep it the same, that doesn't just go along. At the proactive level, we're doing something that improves it, makes it better than it was before. So imagine the possibilities on that. And at a radical level, what we're doing is we're saying, let's think forward to what's even possible with a hospitality experience to have it be something that is better than they've ever experienced before, and that it wouldn't have existed without this adversity. That's where radical adaptability really kicks in. And that's where it gets exciting. What all of you are saying is that radical, prominently, and or at least at minimum proactive adaptability is required to achieve our aspirational future. Yet today, that is not where the energy has been going. I'll give you an example. And this is not to bash on one particular brand, because they've been one of my favorites over the years. I went to Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay, California. Lovely property, gorgeous, love the people there, wonderful staff, men, ladies and gentlemen of the Ritz-Carlton, as you know. I go in, and they've got the plexiglass shields, they've got the marks on the floors, they've got their people in masks, and they're trying to manage traffic, right? But there were significant inconsistencies in the hygiene, in the pacing, the spacing, the management of traffic, the customer experience. And the customers, I was looking at us, the guests, and they were tense because they knew it wasn't going right. And so the customer experience was significantly degraded, even though they were complying. They were reacting to what was being required of them. To be the Ritz-Carlton of the future, What do they need to do? Something fundamentally different so that it's better than it ever was before. And that's what's called upon for all of us. So I can't wait in the masterclass to kind of talk you through some of the models and tools we have to help you elevate your level of adaptability. But here's a couple kind of spoiler alerts, if you will. At the level of peak or radical adaptability, there's a flywheel, and there's 3 primary steps here. First, we've got to learn to respond masterfully. Those who respond better and faster win, right? We know that there's a science behind this that we've measured in over 1 million people around the world. The second level is this discipline of embrace. When we embrace, that means we have to say yes to specific things and embrace them fully, all in. But we also have to say no courageously to a lot of what is assumed and expected. And that's very difficult to do, but it's very freeing because you can't achieve radical adaptability without it. And then we have to have this we have to optimize relentlessly, and that cycle goes. As that cycle goes, it changes because we begin like climbers, we begin to reroute. So we respond, reroute, and optimize, respond, reroute, and optimize. And you build this flywheel, which creates this competitive immunity. And like we were hearing Marcus talk about this boundless energy that attracts the best people and everything else. So in the masterclass, we're going to talk you through a tool called the Core Questions, which is about how we respond optimally to any and all challenges and opportunities. We're going to show you how to go beyond standard adaptation or adaptability, which is coping with a situation and adjusting to it, to go to the higher levels, even beyond what we've been teaching at Harvard Business School and MIT and Stanford and INSEAD and these schools I've been able to teach at, where they teach you to manage adversity. We're going to teach you how to harness it, which means to use adversity as a way to catapult yourself to a place you never would arrive before it. And what better time for the industry than now to be able to harness the adversity of COVID to arrive at a level, to arrive at an experience for your guests, to arrive at a reality that never would have existed without the adversity we face right now. And that's the ultimate power and potential of radical adaptability. And I can't wait to show you how we do that in the masterclass together. We'll rise up, go beyond reactive and active, which is where everyone resides, and take you to the higher levels. So forgive my blasphemy, because Darwin said it's not the strongest or the most intelligent will survive, but those who can best manage change. I think there's more. The nuance I would give that in all due respect is this. It is not the strongest or most intelligent who will thrive, but those who can adapt most radically. And that's where I think we are.